Hey, Dr. Bryce Lee with Strength Space with another frequent question we get, which is what if there's sounds of crunching or grinding when I lift weights? Does that mean I'm unsafe to continue exercising? Should I stop? Or can I keep going? Is it okay to lift through that? These sounds, and we're typically talking about a few types of sounds, which I'll describe, generally are not any indication that we should stop. If anything, they're a clue that we're on to something productive and we should continue going. Let's talk about the first kind of sound, which would be a snapping sound. You could almost imagine the sound that would be made if I took a rubber band and stretched it out and then rubbed it over my knuckles so that it caught and snapped off, caught and snapped off. That is not too far off from what's actually happening inside our bodies. We have tendons and ligaments that wrap around and stabilize our knee or our elbow or our shoulder, hip, etc. And we have bones and bony prominences like the knuckles here, those little shapes there around our joints. And if we haven't been doing a lot of movement, if our body has learned to avoid a particular joint and we've been underloading it for a while and now we start to work it again, what's going to happen is our nervous system is going to have to figure out the best way to time the recruitment of all the muscle fibers around that joint. Our brains don't think we have a bicep and we have a shoulder muscle. Our brains instead have thousands of motor units within each of those muscles that they time precisely to get the best effect, get the most efficient way to lift that joint and move that movement. And so what our nervous system is going to do is refamiliarize itself with the skill of precisely turning on all the motor units around a joint to get the best effect. And for some joints, that's more important than others. For a hip, there can be some snapping in the hip, and that's a common thing, which again can improve with exercise. But the hip itself is a fairly simple joint. It's a ball and socket, and there aren't too many ways for that ball and socket to behave inappropriately. But the knee is a more complicated joint. There's a lot more going on in the knee because you have these two surfaces which are not a ball and a socket moving around each other. And so there requires a lot more coordination from the central nervous system to precisely recruit which muscles and which fibers within those muscles at the right time to get that knee to behave correctly. So as we start to do exercises, and a classic one is a knee extension, when we start to do that exercise, our body is going to have to figure out the best way to do it. And so initially, we might get some snapping and clicking because we're recruiting muscle fibers in an inefficient way. But then as we continue to do the exercise, we might see an improvement there where our nervous system over time starts to get better and better at performing that movement. And then we get less and less snapping. Sometimes that'll even happen within a set where if we're doing nice, slow, controlled repetitions, where we're actually giving our nervous system a chance to get familiar with each joint position. We're not using any momentum so that we kind of skip a part of the range, but we instead ask the body to be in control of every degree of range of motion. When we do that, our nervous system has a better chance of figuring out how to stabilize and control the joint in all of those positions. The other type of noise is more of what we call crepitus. And it sounds more like a crunching or a grinding sound. And it's very unsettling. We don't like that sound. And it's often a reason why people get scared of exercising. And we do have good consensus within the scientific community. You can look up resources, studies, position statements by the Mayo Clinic and really authoritative sources, which will tell you that when you hear those sounds, they are not an indication that what you're doing is harmful. Even if the surfaces of those joints are not the way they were when they were 20, lubricating those joints, strengthening those tissues with strength training, improving the muscular stability around those joints, if anything, is going to improve those sounds over time, not make them worse. We can say that pretty clearly and confidently. When you strength train, you're likely to see improvements in those sounds, meaning they'll get less severe over time if you're very consistent, than worsening. Now, that doesn't mean that the most severe case of arthritis you've ever heard of is going to just spontaneously resolve by doing leg extensions. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that when we put mileage on our body and day-to-day wear and tear, when we're dealing with stairs and walking, we can easily accumulate thousands and thousands of repetitions during, in our step counts, going upstairs, and lots of loading on joints. And 6, 8, or 12 repetitions of a leg extension machine is not going to meaningfully contribute to wear and tear on that joint if those repetitions are performed slowly, but it will contribute to improving the stability and strength of that joint. So what I would encourage you to do, even if you hear some uncomfortable noises while you're exercising, is to keep your cadence slow and controlled, keep your effort high, and keep your volume to a minimum by making sure that every repetition you do is very stimulating and fatiguing so that you don't have to do too many of them. And then just trust the process. Trust that over time, as you stay consistent, The exercise itself won't make those noises worse. If anything, they'll stay the same or improve in time as your strength improves. So don't fear those sounds. If you have serious concerns about the health of any joint, you should always consult with your medical professional. But the sounds themselves shouldn't be a source of concern, according to all of the best authoritative sources. Again, major health organizations, the Mayo Clinic, other medical associations are pretty clear on this, that crepitus alone is not a good reason to stop strength training. I hope that's helpful to you. Again, I'm Dr. Bryce Lee with StrengthSpace, and I look forward to your questions.